Dominick Cruz making his return to fighting after almost 4 years on the shelf, taking on Billy's favorite fighter, King Henry Cejudo. Initial thoughts on this, Billy?
I just can't believe we're at a point where
for the bantamweight title. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to add that point. It's kind of important.
My least favorite fighter in the UFC is a USA Olympic gold medalist wrestler. Like,
you must be a communist or a terrorist.
In the UFC are Olympic wrestlers. That's who I love watching. But I can't stand this guy. Anyway, Dominick Cruz, 4 years off, Parker. Can anyone do this? Is this a possible thing in the UFC to take 4 years off of the sport, come back at the highest level, and win a title?
Fuck. That's a big ask. A really, really big ask. Especially when you're Dominick Cruz. You've had one style your entire career. There's so much tape on you. You're not changing it at 35 years old, and you're fighting one of the most athletic Olympic gold medal champions that's beat Mighty Mouse Johnson, beat TJ Dillashaw, who probably is the most similar fight to Dom Cruz. It's a very, very big ask, but if Dom can pull it off, he's going to be a fucking legend. And I think he should retire and just ride off into the sunset.
How about this one? Is there any UFC fighter, past or present, who could take 4 years off of the sport and get an immediate title shot?
John Jones or GSP. That's the only ones. That's it. If John
I
Jones,
think McGregor could do it too.
Ooh, that would, I don't know, at lightweight or at 170?
At lightweight.
I don't know about that. I think it's John Jones or GSP. If GSP wanted to come, like GSP, I think could come back right now and get a title shot at 155 or 170. John Jones was the king of light heavyweight for 10 years. I think if he went to jail for shooting people in Albuquerque or something and came back 4 years later, he could get a shot at the title. But outside of that, I don't think anyone could pull that off. So if Dom can do it, I mean, it's going to be very, very impressive. And Dom's the guy. He's got it going on. He doesn't have to fight. He's done everything that he needed to do in fighting. But I think it's just I don't know. I think he just wants to do it one more time and show everyone that he's still one of the best fighters in the world, because I think people are sleeping on Dom Cruz, and everyone forgets how good he is, how dominant of a champion he was, especially, all the new people coming into MMA in the Conor McGregor era. You forget how dominant Dom Cruz is. And man, I think he's going to make a huge statement on Saturday. I really do. So let's get into it. Let's just get into it. I mean, prime Dominick Cruz in his prime, like Uriah Faber 2 time frame, I don't think there's even a conversation. I think he goes in there and walks through Henry.
I honestly, the fact that it's like a conversation now kind of like tells you that, right? That like if Dom Cruz is not an all-time great in this division, like we're talking right now about how Henry Cejudo just walks through him. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Henry Cejudo's not a spring chicken. The dude's 33 also. I don't think people are realizing that. So, I don't know. This fight, I don't know what to think of this fight. It's Dom Cruz has just been out of the spotlight for so long. And going back and watching some of his previous fights, like I went back, I watched the Cody fight, I watched the TJ fight, I watched both all three Uriah fights. That dude's special. He's very, very good. Very hard to beat him. He's a very complete fighter. Like Tony Ferguson, he can do it all. His takedown defense is awesome. His wrestling is awesome. We know, I mean, Henry's an Olympic wrestler, probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC ever. But I still think Dom could take him down. I really do. I think the way his timing is just incredible for MMA. He can do it all. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. What are your thoughts on how Henry has been playing his title reign? It seems like he's kind of taken the Conor McGregor approach And I don't blame him because it's the big money fights. Jose Aldo or Dominick Cruz doesn't even come in the same money ballpark as, Peter Yan or Aljamain Sterling or Corey Sandhagen. So what do you think of how he's playing this?
I kind of think he has no choice. I mean, like, when he was a flyweight, right? Like, he was still is. He's a bilingual American Olympic gold medalist who's a 2-division UFC champion and couldn't break into any mainstream, not the English language mainstream, not the Hispanic mainstream. The guy couldn't, like, he was not even the most, like, popular wrestler on the UFC roster.
Right.
So I don't blame him. I don't blame him for this whole, like, king of cringe thing, all the, like, act and all the stuff he's saying, all the call outs. Like, he kind of was forced into this, in my opinion, because who he was as, like, kind of babyface Henry Cejudo. Your aw shucks Henry Cejudo fought Joe Benavidez twice. Like, that guy wasn't making noise. That guy wasn't pushing envelopes. He wasn't getting on Sports Center. This Henry is. And so I don't blame him for trying to get the biggest possible names he could get to get himself in that conversation for best bantamweight of all time, to build clout and try and build his name. Because at the end of the day, kind of has no choice.
No, I agree. I think this fight, looking at it strategically, oh my God, there's a cluster of 6 baby ducks walking in my backyard. That's got to be a good omen. We're going to have blood on Saturday. Okay, so the biggest fight for me, the biggest question is, like, can Henry solve the questions that Dom Cruz brings to the fight? He's been able to kind of figure everyone else out. I would think the closest comparison to someone that he's fought is TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw brings the movement, the varied striking, but that was also a diminished TJ Dillashaw at 125. That's not the best TJ Dillashaw. So can Henry, over 5 rounds, figure out Dominick Cruz, his weird herky-jerky movement, his varied striking, the mixing in of wrestling? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's not that Henry can't do it. Henry clearly can do it, and anyone can do it on any given night. I think that the question for me is, we haven't seen Henry fight anyone like Dom. And what I have, honestly, like, it's hard for me to picture exactly what this fight looks like, because the layoff for Dom, what he's been working on, he's got an awkward, unique style to begin with. And then you have Henry, who, I mean, 2 fights ago, right? 3 fights ago, Henry completely switched his style. Like, went from being like a boxer puncher with great wrestling to this karate style stance. Like, I mean, a complete 180 in the way that he was fighting. So,
well, I think that has a lot to do with training with the Pitbull brothers too. You kind of see them with that similar style. I think the best comparison for Henry fighting Dom is probably Uriah versus Dom 2. Uriah is obviously not the same caliber of wrestler as Henry, but it's pretty similar. I mean, he's got great wrestling, great grappling, and then he's got a giant right hand, and that's kind of how Henry's gotten by, especially like in the Marlon Moraes fight. He was getting his ass kicked for the first 2 rounds, really. Well, a round and a half, and then he comes back and just starts walking Marlon down, just smashing him with right hands and clenched knees. So I think that's probably the best comparison, closest guy that Dom has fought to someone like Henry. And honestly, Dom dominated that fight in my eyes. So
yeah, I just think Dom fought Uriah. I agree with you that Uriah Faber's the closest proxy for Henry Cejudo, especially in Dom's career. But, like, Dominick Cruz fought Uriah Faber for 15 rounds, and I think very easily won 12 to 14 of them. Like, not even really debatable.
Yeah.
12 to 14 of the 15 rounds. Like, that's not good news for Henry Cejudo, even though I think a lot of people have him kind of penciled in as like this longtime bantamweight champ.
Who, Henry or Dom?
Henry.
Yeah, but Dom is that guy. Dom's been the guy for the last, ever since the bantamweight came to the UFC, it's been Dom Cruz. He's been that dominant champion. So this is a very, very interesting matchup. What are your thoughts on, we kind of already talked about it, but Henry holding up both divisions? And we see this with, when you become a two-time champ, it kind of screws up the whole division and kind of keeps everything at a logjam. But what do you think that's done for both of those divisions?
So my thing with the flyweight division, and I've talked about actually how I'm probably in the minority, but I think the UFC should get rid of it, quite frankly. But with 125, I don't think Henry's holding it up anymore, but he is kind of preventing it from growing. And what I mean by that is, whenever we have these situations where the champ doesn't lose the belt in the cage, it kind of takes the luster off of the division. You kind of feel like that current champ, whoever it is, like, whenever Figueiredo and Benavidez rematch and actually have a title on the line, it's not going to feel the same as it would if one of those guys actually took the belt from Henry Cejudo. And so, like, that's kind of what I think he's doing with regards to flyweight. And then on the bantamweight side of things, if we're not in like the coronavirus pandemic, I don't think this Dominick Cruz fight ever gets booked.
I don't either. I think it's a perfect, just a win-win situation for Dom. And the only way that he was going to get this title fight is for all this to happen. So that's why I think if Dom can pull this off, this is like a storybook ending for his, awesome career. And I don't think you could get any better than that, getting your title back and to just right off into the sunset. You're not going to fight the fucking Peter Yans of the world, Sean O'Malley's. I don't see why. You've done everything. So I think for Dom, this is the best case scenario he could ask for a return to fighting. All right, let's dive into the strengths. I'm going to start with Dom. To me, he's a pioneer of the sport in general, and then more specifically the lower weight divisions. He kind of put him and Uriah Faber really kind of put the lower weight divisions on the map in the WEC, and then obviously when they moved over to the UFC. So, he's a pioneer of the sport. The experience is in his favor. He's done everything you could do in the fight game, fight world. So, number two, he's extremely hard to hit. Uriah Faber dropped him a couple times in the second fight, but I mean, he probably missed 97% of the time. I heard I think it was during the Uriah Faber fight I was watching, but his last WEC fight against Scott Jorgensen, I think Scott Jorgensen landed like 7% of his strikes on Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz is like, he's the Floyd Mayweather of MMA. He is so weird and so hard to figure out over 5 rounds. So that's huge for Dom. And then the mental warfare. We haven't necessarily seen it because there hasn't been a huge buildup, but outside of Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, Dominick Cruz is in that ballpark. The way he fucks with you and how wise he is and witty he is, he gets in your head, big time. And I'll be interested to see how he handles that within the fight. If he starts piecing Henry up and he starts talking shit and gets in his head, I think you're going to see an angry Henry Cejudo that's going to start walking him down and trying to throw big bombs, and that's when Dom starts to pick you apart. So 3, and then 4, Dom's hard to put away. He's kind of got the Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz, approach where it's just like, you can't knock the guy out. I think he's lost twice. He got submitted by Uriah Faber. I don't know what the other loss was, but I mean, the guy's very, very hard to hit. And when you do hit him and hurt him, he's hard to finish. The guy, he recovers and he comes right back at you. So those were my 4 biggest strengths for Dom Cruz. And obviously you're going to cover this, but the footwork. The footwork's out of this world. Joe Rogan's always said this, but if you put, black screen up and you didn't see who the fighter was and you see the movement, you know it's Dom Cruz. There's no one that moves like Dom Cruz ever in MMA. So those are my.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the footwork. I think he's so good at just getting out of the way, being able to hit people without getting hit. And it's all in the feet. Like, it is so impressive what Dom can do with his feet. The other two I had that you didn't maybe touch on is, number one, Dom's fight IQ is unbelievable. And I think that's a big advantage of him taking 4 years off and kind of doing the commentating thing. Is like, I guarantee you this guy's been just poring over film of Cejudo and knows him inside and out. Like, he's one of the smartest fighters, I think, to ever grace the cage. And he just knows what these guys are doing, what they're going for, and it's just so unbelievable. And like, if you don't have a significant athletic advantage over Dom Cruz, like, it's kind of hard to overcome that, honestly. Like, Cody Garbrandt beat Dom Cruz because of athleticism. There was a lot of times in that fight where Dom actually outsmarted Cody.
And just speed, just raw speed. Cody Garbrandt is just faster than Dom Cruz and was able to just beat him to the punch a lot of the time. So that was the one I don't know how I forgot that fight. What am I doing?
Yeah.
But yeah.
The other one that I think Dom is really like next level at is his belief in himself, his belief that he can go out and do this. I mean, he very famously does not believe in ring rust. He's going to go out there. You're going to get the best version of Dom Cruz that's available to us on Saturday night. And so I don't know that we can say that about everyone on this fight card, that we know that we'll get the best version of them. I feel very confident that I'm getting the best Dom Cruz.
No, absolutely. After going back and watching all of his fights, weaknesses, I came up with 3. He's obviously his footwork and how much movement. I want to see someone put a Fitbit on Dom Cruz and see how far he goes during a fight. He will just circle the ring in and out, back and forth, side to side. His movement is it saps your energy big time. And we haven't seen him in 4 years. I would like to see if he can keep up that, same style over 5 rounds like he did in the past. He's not known for having cardio issues, but he's an older guy now. Hasn't been in a real fight in 4 years. So that's something to keep an eye on, just the amount of energy it takes to keep up that style over 5 rounds. The second thing, there's really Dom's got one style. He doesn't have multiple styles, multiple ways, plan B, C, D, E that he can use. He's got his style. It's cemented. It works for him. It's worked for him forever. He's the most dominant bantamweight champion ever. So Henry, on the other hand, I think he's got multiple ways to fight. He can take the fight to the ground. He can smash you. He can use his karate style. I think he's got a little more diversity when it comes to actual fighting styles and ways to fight, ways to attack Dom Cruz. Number 3 is a willingness to exchange. Dom will go in and he'll exchange with you. He's got kind of a Wonder Boy Thompson, kind of just like kamikaze, blitz style that he'll use and he'll mix in. And in the Uriah Faber fights, that's when he got caught. He got caught a couple times, blitzing in and then trying to get back out. He got caught on the way out a couple times. And Henry's got serious power. So that's something to look out for is, Dom being willing to exchange into a firefight and push the pace of the fight and then getting caught on the way out or getting into clinch situations and on the break getting caught. So that's something to look out for.
Yeah, the 3 that I had here, Dom's injury history has to be brought up. Like I said, I know I'm, between the ears, I know I'm getting the best Dom Cruz I could possibly get, but there's a reason this guy hasn't fought in 4 years, and I'm especially worried about all the foot injuries that he's had. If that's going to affect his movement, that scares me if I'm going for Dom Cruz this fight. Second one I had was he's never really fought a guy who I think has like a significant wrestling advantage over him. There's definitely been fights where it's like, this guy's probably a little bit better wrestler than Dom, but it's probably 60-40 or it's about even. Henry Cejudo is a clearly better wrestler than Dom Cruz.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what that looks like if Dom has that threat constantly. The third one I had is he's not a power puncher. Dom Cruz is not Cody Garbrandt. He's not going to come out there and knock you out in the first round. He's not Peter Yan. He's a volume puncher. He's going to put you away with volume. And not that it scares me necessarily, but like it's definitely a weakness of his that he doesn't seem to have that true knockout power.
Mm-hmm. All right. So path to victory, and we'll do predictions too. I think for Dom, he's just got to be on his bike. He's got to stick and move. He's got to use his movement. He's got to be fluid the entire time. Stay safe. Don't get too reckless and rush into, blitzing situations or try to clinch too much with Henry. You saw Henry hurt Marlon Moraes a lot with those knees, which I don't think Dom's going to put himself in that situation. But do what he does best. I think he's far and beyond 100 times better striker than Henry Cejudo. So I think mix up your striking. Use those leg kicks. Dom has vicious leg kicks. I think people kind of forget about that. But some of those early fights, the WEC fights, and then some of the maybe 1 and 2 of Uriah Faber, really TJ Dillashaw too, he was just whipping those leg kicks in there, and those do damage. And you saw with that karate stance, Henry Cejudo's very, very heavy on that front leg, and he was getting fucking obliterated in the first 2 rounds against Marlon Moraes. So that's something I think Dom could use throughout the fight, is just keep going to the well with those leg kicks. But I've got Dom. I've got Dom winning a 5-round decision. I just don't think Henry has what it takes to beat Dom. I think Dom is just too smart. He's not going to get knocked out by Henry. He's not going to be put in bad grappling exchanges or bad positions. I think he's going to fight smart and just get it done over 5 rounds, and I think he's going to be your bantamweight champion.
Yeah, for Henry to win this fight, I think it actually has to look very, very similar to the Mighty Mouse fight, where Henry's able to not go shot for shot with Dom necessarily, because I don't think that's possible, but hit him with enough shots to make him think, make him respect the power, make him think about getting hit, and then use that to kind of time the takedowns, take him down. But in order to win this, he's got to be able to hold him down as well. Which I think is easier said than done, but I don't think it's impossible. I think Dom will get taken down. I think he will lose rounds because he is taken down and held down, and Henry's able to control him. Ultimately, I have the same situation. I have Dom winning by decision. I think the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Dominick Cruz. But I definitely see a route to victory for Henry, where he's able to use his wrestling, use kind of that power right hand that he used so well against Marlon, and really kind of frustrate Dom, but also make Dom respect him in a way that allows the wrestling to kind of open up. And then if Henry's able to control him for a couple rounds, I think that could help him lock up a close decision victory as well. So I see this as a pretty even fight, honestly, and but I do like Dom Cruz by decision as well.